One of the most distinct features of hunter weapons compared to a lot of other weapons in the game is that the strongest PA of each weapon is essentially a gimmick. There are mechanics tied to them that give them a bit of a learning curve and contributes to the dynamic of easy to learn and hard to master. Ignite Parry, or Blaze Parry if you're wrong, is a prime example. It does almost a double effective DPS of all other sword PAs on the condition that you have to parry during the PA to get the true damage. This makes it only applicable in situations where that's possible, and even then it has limitations as well as being one of the most strict counters in the game. This PA is what elevates sword from a decent, if not bland weapon, to a top tier weapon. During the PA, using your weapon action will create a guard point. This can be done a maximum of 3 times in the first 4 slashes. Using the weapon action during the last 2 diagonal slashes will cancel the PA with your guard animation. Each guard point has a slight cooldown, meaning that spamming it won't work, but it does work with the relevant hunter guard skills. After a successful parry, the PA speeds up slightly and you become completely intangible during the rest of it, while increasing its damage output by 2.4 times. Nothing too complex, right? Yeah, sure, most other PAs are just press button to do damage tee-hee, but they also don't tend to erase enemies from existence in half a nanosecond, so it's fair balance, maybe. Another thing is that despite this being a counter, it is the only type of counter in the game that is based on a PA, which means unlike other counters, you cannot cancel out of your current action to initiate it, meaning that timing is everything. Due to the polarizing strength of this PA, sword gameplay can be boiled down into a flowchart of can I Hakai this enemy into oblivion with Blaze Parry right now or not. Your rotation as such is about fitting in as much filler DPS PA such as Rising Edge before the next opportunity to blaze it and well, hit it. In general, due to Hunter's relatively slow speed and long PA duration, with a lot of them being back-ended, the class requires a lot of enemy knowledge, and understanding how to make sure everything you do hits is part of the min-max. You lack the benefit of hit scan PAs that go full screen with tracking that allow you to move during said PA. Blaze Parry takes this to a new level, due not only to it being completely immobile and back-ended, you also ideally want to know every enemy attack, the condition for that attack and their positioning before and after that attack. In most cases it's not that typically complex and you don't need to know that much information. But if you watch any high level sword hunter, you will probably see them use Ignite Parry on something you didn't even think of. And it's the difference between being a good hunter and a god hunter. So, with all those qualifications out of the way, how do we actually go about getting good? Well, the scientific method is always best. Just mess around with enemies for a while in a solo setting and get an idea of their patterns. Some enemies fight in a typical action MMO proximity based script where their attacks are based on where you are. Rock Bear is actually quite good for training. He has long wind-ups and a few variations on his attacks based on your position so you can practice baiting and reacting to Blaze Parry. This will also teach you how to study an enemy's rhythm to be able to create a mental timeline of when each enemy action is going to occur. This helps optimize damage outside of Blaze Parry. Before I go into more specific examples, I want to make clear that the most important thing is the mindset. Creating a mindset where you are naturally being observant to an enemy's patterns will not only improve your Blaze Parry usage, but will also improve your gameplay greatly. Despite Blaze Parry being your ultimate goal when using sword, not every boss gives you the opportunity enough for it to be a major part of your rotation. That being said, fighting bosses that attack less frequently is nice, because your typical single target rotation isn't affected as much. As a result, you don't have to focus on it a lot. A very good example is Darkfowl's Elder, as this fight functions much like a turn-based encounter, where you essentially Blaze Parry once at the beginning of your attacking phase, and focus on regular rotations after, and then you do that, rinse and repeat. This boss actually does have an example of a more advanced Blaze Parry technique that I will cover in a later video, but generally he's a good way to practice even without being solo. That being said, the easiest way to access him at this point is to challenge his fight in the story with a 1-star sword as much as you want until you're comfortable with the flow. On the other hand, a lot of bosses in the game become a victim to sword due to their frequent attacking patterns. In these cases, your gameplay starts to revolve around setting up for a successful Blaze Parry, and how much filler is reasonable before you should be ready to use it again. A good example of this is the other elder, Fao's Huna or Hunao if you're wrong, etc, etc. This boss attacks relatively frequently, and his attacks are reasonably telegraphed, while also being based on your positioning, giving you the ability to bait and punish. In this case, most of your downtime is focused on getting in a good position to blaze parry again. These types of bosses are more important to learn, as you will see a sharp DPS increase for every parry you can land instead of relying on dodging or charge parry. Okay, so this is probably some shit to take in all at once, so I will leave it there. With this information, you should be able to understand the basics of the usage of this PA, which will help you with your optimization for sword in general. Using this in conjunction with the Sword Hunter Guide should provide a good base to feel like you actually know what the fuck you're doing in this deceptively complex game. In a later Blaze Parry video, I will be covering things like advanced timings on certain attacks to get more than one parry, and using other enemies in the environment to get free parries. Please look forward to it.